Oh boy, China's in big trouble. This young boy is being taught that women can be bought. This young boy was told that he couldn't play on his phone. He reacted by beating his mother. It got so out of hand that a bystander, uncharacteristically of Chinese society, stepped in to stop him. And this, well...
你们家就这样教孩子的吗？说什么呢？你这孩子你干嘛呢你啊？大声教导我孩子怎么办？还有吓到你孩子，你赶紧来陪我们家谁？你好这样陪，说没事吧？别讨好，你们家就这样教孩子对吧？我怎么教孩子叫你们管吗？小何，报警！傻孩子懂什么？
What's going on here? Why do China's little emperors exist? And why are they a ticking time bomb? I'll explain shortly, right after this data broker rap. Deep within the corporate offices of a data broker, something is happening behind closed doors. What's our bread and butter? Addresses and numbers. Your private information makes us filthy rich. We spam you with phone calls, waste paper in your mailbox. You cannot escape us. We're data broken bros. When you browse the internet, when you click on accept a cookie, when you sign up for some or other service in a shop, your data gets sold to data brokers, and data brokers then sell it to other people. But there is a way to get your name and personal information removed off of these lists, and that is incognito. You see, they do the fancy footwork and all the hard work for you. There are thousands of data brokers out there, and for you to go after each one and legally request for your name to be removed would be incredibly time-consuming and costly. But incognito does it for you. You give them permission, and then they will, on your behalf, send legal letters to all of these different data brokers to get your personal data removed. If you're tired of junk mail and you want to get rid of all these targeted adverts and take your privacy back, go to incognito.com/Winston and use the code Winston to get 60% off. Protect your privacy today. Go to incognito.com/Winston and use the code Winston to take your personal data off the market. And now back to the show. Okay, so I want to go over that scene in the restaurant properly, as this really demonstrates how bad it is. I've translated the whole clip for you, but let me set this up. You have two families eating dinner at a hot pot restaurant, a mother and her 13-year-old son, and another table with a mother and father and what looks like to be their 3-year-old daughter. As it is common in China, the 3-year-old is being kept busy watching something on her mother's phone. The boy, however, is constantly banging his chopsticks on his bowl and glass while constantly kicking the little girl for no reason and putting his dirty shoe on her dress. This is where the video begins.
家长，你能不能管管你家孩子了？你孩子脚一直在踢我女儿。哎呀，他一个孩子懂什么？你跟孩子斤斤计较什么呀？没有，我跟他就说了好几次呀。你孩子不懂事，难道你家长不懂事吗？而且你看，他一直拿筷子在敲碗，这个很不礼貌啊！这么多位置呢，嫌少换一桌不就行了？别人也没你们这么多事啊！对，你们家就这样教孩子的吗？说什么呢？你这孩子，对，你们家就这样教孩子的吗？说什么呢？你这孩子你干嘛呢你啊？大声教导我孩子怎么办？还有吓到你孩子，你赶紧来陪我们家谁？你好，赶紧来陪我们家谁？你好，这样陪，说没事吧？别讨好，你们家就这样教孩子对吧？我怎么教孩子叫你们管吗？小何，报警，好吧？报什么警啊？他在一直但是一个小孩子懂什么？小孩子懂什么？13岁怎么了呀？啊，13岁这样一样的要留自然责任，也要留违法记录了。别人13岁都杀人都没有坐牢，他不就丢一个手就赔你就是了呀？那就说什么？
你在说什么？
海边是谁啊？你在去海边吗？管不管？没有。
我跟你说，这孩子搭上你这种妈算废了，我跟你讲。
行，你有种，你知道我是谁吗？你都在这给我等。
Here are the important takeaways. The mother of the little emperor refuses to let the boy take any consequences for his actions and allows him to do whatever he wants and then defends his abhorrent behavior, saying he's just 13 years old, so shouldn't be expected to take responsibility. Listen up, biatch. 13 years old is a teenager. I'm pretty sure that little turd knows exactly what he's doing. She then allows him to destroy someone else's property by not only smearing his ice cream on the phone that the little girl is watching, but then grabbing it and throwing it into the hot pot. On top of that, he hides behind his obnoxious mother and flips off the other family. Obviously, this behavior isn't something that can be defended, but the mother refuses to apologize and refuses to scold her little emperor. When a third party who's either staff or another customer gets involved and scolds the mother, she then starts threatening everyone with the classic, "Do you know who my husband is?" nonsense. I'll tell you who her husband is. He's obviously a complete joke of a man who is a terrible father and husband and completely useless as a human being. Probably some sort of low-level government official. My point is, all this little turd has learned from this experience is that even if he on purpose hurts, irritates, and destroys other people's property, nothing will happen to him. In fact, he will be coddled, encouraged, and endorsed. Can you see how dangerous this is? When this turd grows up, how do you think he's going to treat women? And since his dad is probably a government official, he's probably going to get some nepotism position where he has power over people. You see how bad this is? An entire generation of entitled, spoilt, psychopath turds entering society at every level. Can you see what a time bomb this is? But why does this problem exist? Well, decades of China's one-child policy and the preference for boys has not only caused a massive gender imbalance, but also led to a generation of spoiled little emperors, coddled by their grandparents and parents. Remember, even poor rural families will treat their sons as if they're some sort of little god. But why? Simple. China has no social security. When you get too old to work, the only way you can retire is if your family looks after you. In China, if you have a daughter, she gets sold off to another family for a bride price. But then you're on your own. Whereas if you have a boy, you buy a wife for him, and then you get to live with your son and his wife. Cook the food, raise the grandkids, that sort of thing, but you're taken care of because the young couple will take care of your living costs. So having a boy is like starting a retirement fund or like opening a 401k. This is also why during the one-child policy, girls would almost always be aborted. It got so bad that the government actually made it illegal for couples to find out the gender of their babies before they were born. Of course, people still bribe doctors to find out, but that's par for the course in China. So here we sit, a generation of spoiled turds and a generation of mistreated and underappreciated women poised to take over China. Lucky us. I'd like to tell you a story about a little emperor scenario that I ran into personally about 10 years ago. I'll make it brief, but I was having dinner at an outdoor barbecue place that I always used to. And next to me, a little boy, must have been sort of 9 or 10 years old, a little chubby boy, started throwing food at his father. And the reason is his father didn't want him to play on the phone anymore. It's always down to phones, it seems. But the father had taken the phone away, and the little boy was throwing a tantrum. And he was calling his father all sorts of names. I understand Chinese. He was calling his father terrible names and throwing food at his father. And to the point where the father's just sitting there, silent, taking this abuse. And the mother was also giving him hell for taking the phone away. And he kind of relented and gave the phone back. And it made me mad, and I stood up and I went over to the table and I scolded the little boy because nobody else would. And I said, your father's not an idiot. Your father's not all these terrible things he was saying. It's your father and you need to respect him. And the little boy just shut up, and I went to go sit back down. And probably, 5 minutes later, the mother came over and started to shout at me saying, he's just a little boy. Very similar to what we saw in that video, actually. It's like, he's just a little boy. You shouldn't talk to him like that. He's just this and that. And I said, no, you are a terrible mother. I told her, you are not bringing up your son right. I gave her hell too. And she got mad, angry, screaming at me, but eventually just left because I guess she realized there's nothing that she could do about it, right? Anyway, the positive thing that came out of this is after that family left, poor father, by the way, I guess he brought it upon himself, to be honest. But at the same time, I don't like to see anyone treated like that, especially in public. But a table over the way from me, of young Chinese people, kind of my age at the time, so in their 20s. They came over and said thank you to me, and they paid for my meal and my beers. And that was a very positive experience for me because, look, there are lots of decent people in China who don't like this, but because of the way society works there, people don't get involved, right? They can sit there and really hate what's happening. They can really not agree with what's going on, but they're not going to stand up and actually take action. They're just going to accept it. And that's kind of how the Chinese government rules over everyone there, is because nobody's really got the courage to stand up, because 9 times out of 10, if you try to intervene or stand up, you end up, putting yourself in a terrible situation, ruining your life. But me as a foreigner, of course, I have that luxury to step in sometimes, and that's also my personality. Anyway, I wanted to share that with you because I've seen this a lot in China personally. It's happened to me, and it really is a big issue. And maybe now you have a bit of an understanding of what these little emperors are and why they exist in the first place. Obnoxious little turds, that's for sure. And hopefully, common sense prevails. And also, hopefully you don't ever run into these guys, because I tell you what, yeah, they'll make your blood boil. Anyway, thank you once again for watching, guys. Don't forget to join me on Friday for the China show. It's always fun. We talk about the propaganda, the fun stuff, the ridiculous stuff, everything else in between, and all the up-to-date news as far as China's concerned. So come and join me on Friday. Link is down below. And can't wait to see you in the next one. So until then, you know the drill. As always, stay awesome.